Welcome along to the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by the dynamic duo of Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke, tipping up a few winners this midweek in the Champions League. Now, speaking of winners, if you are looking for a few at Cheltenham next week, then do check out our podcast feed or YouTube channel where you can catch not only our Cheltenham preview night, which we recorded last week, but we've done a special Cheltenham's handicaps preview. Really good stuff from Matt Toombs in terms of Cheltenham trends, lots of stuff that you wouldn't be aware of, and a lot of prices, very big prices tipped up on the podcast. So check that out in your podcast feed, YouTube channel, or even Matchbook Insights or insights.matchbook.com. Ourselves here, we ask if you are.
I'm on it, Dan. I'm on it.
You're on it, Adrian. Sorry,
Look,
I should have brought you in.
This is the only time of the year I really get into the horse racing. So, I think that's one-stop shop for some tips. Like it.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, listen, Matt Toombs does a lot of Cheltenham trends, a lot of interesting stuff, Adrian. So I know you love solving a puzzle like you do every week on this podcast. So yeah, could very much find yourself down a dark hole next week trying to figure out some of those winners. But yeah, do hit that like button and subscribe completely for free to the Matchbook YouTube channel. We're very close to 5,000 subscribers. I think we're about 60 off. So keep them coming in. We'll start with the 4 games, incidentally. We're going to go in race card order. Some of you might be here for the couple of big games Sunday. Do check out the timestamps wherever you're listening to the show. But Manchester United, Everton, Aston Villa, Spurs, Liverpool versus City, and then Monday Night Football, Chelsea versus Newcastle. But we'll start with a big game for Manchester United, looking to respond after their derby defeat. They are odds on 193. Everton 4.3. The draw is 4.0. Both teams to score, yes, 1.7, and no is available at 238. The Asian handicap line sees Everton get a half-goal start. That's 206, and the goal line here is 2.5. Mark O'Haire, I saw you smiling when you saw the Manchester United are odds on here at Old Trafford after what was, I guess they dug in some ways, but if you look at the stats and look at how the game went, they were always going to lose that game.
Felt inevitable, really, that game, the way the flow of the match was going. They managed to get away with it at Anfield, but not at the Etihad, really. And they had themselves in a sort of an unexpected position when Rashford scored that wonder strike. And to be fair, it did take City a while to unpick that defence, especially in the first half. They didn't create stacks of clear-cut opportunities, bar the massive opportunity for Haaland, which he inexplicably missed. But the flow of the game was already set, really, and it just felt of a case of when, rather than if, City were going to not just equalise, but go on and win the game with room to spare, really. So not a huge surprise that United lost that game. It was a surprise to me to see them at odds on, though, this weekend against Everton. I'm kind of parroting the same stuff with United, but they're just not a trustworthy team. At odds on quotes for me, home or away, against probably any opponent in the Premier League at the minute. Maybe not against the bottom two, but certainly against everyone else in the Premier League. I just can't be trusting them at those kind of prices. They've now lost 11 league games this season. Last season, they lost just 9. 39 goals conceded this season. Last year, 43 overall. I think it's really difficult to see where progress is being made. I think it's very difficult to see what the plan of attack, what the approach is, what the game plan is either. It's difficult to see how their kind of game management is in process. It's just quite bleak, really. And you look at the underlying metrics, they're hugely overperforming, overachieving. I've got them 12th in expected points. Only 4 clubs allowing a higher non-penalty expected goals figure in terms of conceded, 164 per game. Only 3 teams are allowing more shots per game than Manchester United, 16.44. They're kind of numbers which are in line with Burnley. That kind of gives you an idea of what United are doing in sort of the defensive aspects. But overall, they've won the XG battle just 10 times in 27. They've won the shots in the box battle 9 times in 27. So whichever way you look at it, United are just not an attractive option at odds on quotes at the moment. So, no Rasmus Højlund, no Martinez in defence, 2 very key players in the foundation of that team. I just think they're opposable, and it's quite amusing, really, because we've got a United side here who are overachieving, overperforming against their actual outputs, against an Everton team who are the complete opposite, hugely underperforming and underachieving their own metrics. None more so than last weekend against West Ham, where they miss a penalty, have 22 shots and end up with nothing. But I've actually got Everton 8th on expected points, and only the top 3 are allowing a higher non-penalty expected goals figure than Everton, which is remarkable. As is the fact that Everton have won the XG battle 17 times this season. Only the runner-away top 3 have done better in that regard, but they've won just 8 games. And that's largely down to the fact that Calvin Lewin's not scored since late October, dropped last weekend. Beto scores but misses the penalty. They're just not finishing their opportunities. There's a real lack of conviction about their play in the final third. But I think defensively, few teams in the bottom half will be as well organised, well set up, or know their jobs inside out as Everton will do. And I look at their more recent away performances, and it does give me some positivity, really, despite the results and despite the winless streak. They were the better team away at Tottenham. Okay, fairly beaten and well beaten at Wolves, fair enough. But they were very good at Fulham in a 0-0 draw, which could have been 3-3. I thought they set up brilliantly at Man City and frustrated them for a large part of that game before the ball bounced to Haaland with 20 minutes or so to go. And then picked up a well draw with Brighton as well. So there's been 5 tough venues there, and they've been creditable, respectable in 4 of those, at least, since Christmas. You look at their 5 away defeats, 4 have been against the top 5. Now, Man United are 6th in the Premier League, but they're not the 6th best team in the Premier League with my eyes. And I just think Everton are good enough to battle and to set up and to be a thorn in United's side this weekend. And I just think the odds are off, really. So they'll be close to their best 11. United won't be. There's an opportunity, I think, for Everton to get something out of this game. We're getting odds against. It's drifted to 2.06 now for Everton with half a goal start. I'm happy to play that because there's no way I'm touching United odds on.
Okay, as Mark mentioned, pushed out a little bit this morning, 2.06 at time of recording, which is Thursday afternoon. Adrian, make the opposite case.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not going to argue against that because I've seen Manchester United a lot this season, worked on their games, and yeah, unimpressive more often than not, really, and yeah, no more so than in that Fulham game, which preceded the City defeat. So yeah, I mean, if they play like they did against Fulham, Everton have got a great chance of going there and getting a rare victory. I'm just a little bit more skeptical, I guess, about numbers and XG battles and things like that, maybe than Mark is, because I just think that they're not scoring goals. You know, if you haven't got players that are confident in front of goal, then that's going to continue to be the case. You know, I look at their record away to the top 12 this season. 8 away games against top 12 opponents. They've scored 3 goals, Everton. You know, this isn't the type of fixture where they go away and score 2 or 3 goals. You know, lucky to get 1, and that they are playing a Man United team that, for all of their flaws, have scored in 9 straight games. They've averaged over 2 goals per game across that period as well. So, you know, I know that Højlund was a part of that and that he's not available, but United are still scoring and they've still got a lot of talent in their team. They've got Rashford, they've got Garnacho, they've got Bruno Fernandes, they've got McTominay, you know, players who can hurt anyone, even if United aren't playing that well. So, you know, this is Everton, an Everton team that hasn't won since December the 16th. 10 games without a win, 5 losses, 5 draws. Scored twice in their last 5 away games, despite playing well. I just think I can't back Everton. I'm a little bit like Mark can't get on United side. I can't back Everton because they keep letting the fans down in a way by not converting the chances, by not getting the results that maybe their performances deserve. And yeah, I just think United have got a chance here. So I'm not going to go all in on United. Basically, I found something on the bet builder where I can double chance it. So you can go with Manchester United or the draw. And the draw is a distinct possibility here. And I want to pair it with under 3.5 goals because I don't think there'll be loads of goals here. We know that Everton have massive problems scoring. United have scored fewer goals than any other side in the top half this season, 37 in 27 games. Their lowest since 2015-16. So I think it'll be low scoring. In terms of the over 3.5 goals, well, it's happened in just 26% of all games for Manchester United and for Everton. So unders, basically 3/4 of the time, comes in with United and Everton games. That they're both top of the charts when it comes to those low scoring games. So yeah, under 3.5 feels very strong. I can't back Everton, given their recent results. So pair it with the draw and Manchester United, and it still comes out at a backable 1.92.
Okay, yeah, that's the bet builder, incidentally, for UK customers, Manchester United or the draw with under 3.5 goals, 192. A marginal preference for Everton here, plus half a goal, 202. And if my maths are correct, I think I went 4-0, including Forest plus 1.25 last week. So I'm very much the person to listen to on this podcast. I know where Mark and Adrian are coming from and pick out the right bets. It's a skill in itself, Adrian. I think. I don't know what you think.
When you get to go second, you get to kind of batter the points of the person who went first. So just my little right of reply here on United. Yeah, they're scoring goals, but they're conceding a lot as well. I could have said a different word there.
Everton. But Everton don't
think
score.
But United's last 3 clean sheets, right? They beat West Ham 3-0. Nowhere near was that a 3-0 game. 3-3 would have been a fair result. Then the previous one, absolutely battered at Liverpool, managed to burgle that 0-0. The previous clean sheet was away at Goodison Park where they won 3-0, and they were absolutely battered. It wasn't a 3-0 game. Like, I don't know how they keep managing to squeeze out these wins because they're just not a very good football team at the minute. I'm not saying Everton are brilliant, but I think Everton are a good football team. They just can't put the ball in the back of the net at the moment.
Yeah, you think when you leave the big games to last that you fly through the first couple and gives you more time, where we've spent half the podcast talking about Manchester United and Everton. It really has that curse of the early kickoff nil all written all over it, but we'll lock in Everton plus half a goal at 2-0-2. Super Sunday is probably as good as it gets, a 9.2 out of 10, I think. Aston Villa versus Tottenham. We'll take a look at the betting that we currently have on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. Villa 2.54 favourite, Spurs 2.7. The draw is 4.1. Both teams to score, yes. 1.4. I don't think I've seen as low as that for a long time. The Asian handicap line sees drawn a bet market, so Villa slight favs there at 192, and the goal line here 3.5, and that's a coin flip also. Adrian, it's this is going to be some game, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it screams goals. It absolutely screams goals. Aston Villa against Tottenham Hotspur. Over 3.5. I'm not bold enough to go there that often, but the way the Premier League is this season, the way these two teams set up, it feels like there's just no option. Because I don't know who's going to win. I think they're quite evenly matched sides. I think Spurs maybe edge it, but being away from home, I think this is a coin toss, as you just said. They use that term. Watkins, I think with his movement, his pace, is tailor-made to really hurt Tottenham's high line. But then you look at Villa and they're the way that they play, they squeeze up. You think of Son and Brennan Johnson, obviously with Richarlison out, he'll probably get a game here. And you think, well, they could do all sorts of damage against Aston Villa. So, yeah, look, 7 of Spurs' 12 away games this season have gone over 3.5 goals. I mean, they're pretty entertaining. They've conceded between 2 and 4 goals in all away games against top half teams this season, Tottenham. So, 2, 3s and 4s they're letting in. They're not losing all of those games, by the way, because they score so many. So, yeah, Spurs away games against top half average 4.6 goals. It's mental, really. Haven't won any of those, by the way. Lots of draws in there. Son likes playing at Villa Park. Good record there. So, yeah, look, it just feels as if it's going to be very open. Villa have been leaking a lot more goals lately. They've had injuries, haven't they, at the back? And I think Camara's absence is big, and they've lost a centre-half or 2 as well. There've been 22 goals in total in Villa's last 5 games. At home, they've conceded 9 in their last 4. So, yeah, for me, I can't really pick a winner here, even though Villa have got a very good record against Spurs of late. I just see it being 2-2 or 3-2, sort of either way, really. Could be a 3-1. But yeah, over 3.5 is where I'm going here.
Yeah, Mark, it's one of those games you could overthink and try and come up with a winner, but I think backing goals, fun bets, sit back and hopefully enjoy a really good game.
Yeah, I think on the reverse game, I selected over 3.5 goals, possibly for the first time in Matchbook podcast history.
Tough beat, wasn't it, from memory? Yeah.
Yeah, the game ended 2-1. The XG came in at 4.1, 33 shots, 8 big chances, 12 corners. The woodwork was hit 3 times. And, as Adrian flagged before that first game, it was the offside derby, and we had a chunky 7 offsides that day. So I'm fully expecting a repeat of those numbers this time around too. And I can understand people might feel over 3.5 goals isn't a palatable selection at odds-on quotes. I totally understand that. But I do think there's an argument to suggest even over 3.5 goals could be a little bit shorter. The 197 suggests we got a 51% chance of 4 or more. But if you look at the metrics, Adrian's outlined many of them, but Villa have gone over in 56% of all of their games, 69% at home. 10 of those 13 have seen both sides score. The average XG per game comes in at 357. The actual goals output is 3.85. So pretty much ticks in every box there for over 3.5. Spurs over 3.5 and 46%. But that leaps to 58% away, 75% of which have seen BTTS. The average XG is a little lower at 318, but the actual goals is 383. So a little bit of overperformance there, but nothing to sort of deter you away here. And, full complement basically for Villa and forward areas. We've seen Watkins and Bailey creating, combining, scoring at incredible rates. Spurs, I think, are due back to have Pedro Porro and Richarlison alongside Son, Werner, Johnson, Maddison, supremely stocked in that area too. And I just think stylistically this will suit both teams. Spurs have toiled a little bit in recent weeks because Palace and Wolves have gone there and tried to sit in and frustrate, and it's worked to a certain extent. Villa won't do that. They'll be front foot. Both teams like to play on the counter-attack. Both teams are comfortable in possession. And you look at the recent records for Spurs since late October in the Premier League, 17 Premier League games. 16 have gone over 2.5 and both teams to score. 9 have gone over 3.5. 7 of Villa's last 9 have gone over and BTTS, 6 of which have gone over 3.5. 2 teams chasing the top 4. Well, Villa have kept 6 clean sheets, Spurs just 5. Not numbers you associate with a Champions League qualifying side. And Villa have scored twice or more in 16 matches. Spurs have done so in 20. So whichever way you look at it, it's very difficult not to be with the goals. And, if over 3.5 goals doesn't tickle your fancy at 197, just dip into the bet builder. You can get 2.9 on both teams to score over 1.5 goals. Adrian was highlighting a few correct scores there, the 2-2, the 3-2, either way, or you can get 2.9 on both teams scoring at least twice. And brings in a whole range of correct scores, high scoring correct scores, if that's a bit more appealing than the odds on quote for over 3.5.
Oh, I do sort of like the sound of that.
Over 3.5.
Yeah. It's like I'm not allowed picking. I'm just like, oh, why wasn't that put down? But no, we'll lock in over 3.5 goals at 196. As the guy said, a tough game to call, but we are expecting plenty of goal mouth action. The big game for a number of sides in this title race, Liverpool versus Manchester City. The prices we have on the match with Bet and Exchange, you can see Liverpool 3.05 underdogs to City, who are 234. We'll go through how often they'll be favoured in a Premier League in a minute. The draw is 3.95. Both teams to score another short price, 148. Just shows you there'll be plenty of goals this Super Sunday. The Asian handicap line is Liverpool getting a quarter goal head start at 10-11 or 191. The goal line 3.5. Mark, on this game here, we were just chatting off here. Producer Ryan was asking the question, when was the last time Manchester City were underdogs in the Premier League? And the answer is, we don't know. It's a long time ago.
Certainly not in the last 6 years, which surprised myself, actually. I've got City as favourites in every Premier League game since 2018. The biggest price being away at Chelsea. I think we said 2019 was that? Or
yeah.
No?
29,
like
yeah, 1-0.
2021. Yeah. So that was a decent Chelsea team, but City were still faves that day. And I think producer Ryan said that City were odds-on favourites at Anfield last season. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised they're favourites this weekend. I am surprised they're as short as 234. 234 for a venue where they've won just once since 2003. I think that's correct. And that day came during the COVID interrupted campaign, where there was no supporters at Anfield. Liverpool were decimated by defensive injuries and started that game with Fabinho and Henderson at centre half. That's City's only win, I believe, since 2003 at Anfield. And they're 235 favourites in a massive, massive match. It's not just a venue that City have struggled in. If you go back to 2018, Liverpool have lost 7 times in 108 Premier League games. 6 of those came in consecutive matches during that COVID campaign, where they were decimated by injuries. There was no supporters at Anfield. So take out those 6 games in succession, where City won that time. It's 1 defeat in 102 Premier League games at home, which is astonishingly strong. So on that basis alone, I think you have to look at Liverpool with a quarter goal start and be more inclined to take that at 191 than back City at 235, considering you're making money even if the game ends in a draw. I know City are the best team rated on the planet by a stretch. We know they are very capable of going to Anfield and winning. However, their record when stepping up in class hasn't always convinced. Just this campaign, beaten without scoring at Arsenal and Villa. 3 wins in 7 when travelling to teams in the top 11. Last season, they won once in 8 against the top 9. And in the Champions League since 21-22, they have won 7 of 16 away games. They failed to win at PSG, Atletico, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and Dortmund during that sample. The best team they won away at during that run was Leipzig, which was this campaign, but their previous trip to Leipzig, they didn't win. So there is an advantage for City. They played Wednesday night. They're able to rest and rotate, playing at home at the Etihad too. Liverpool have to go to Prague on Thursday. I'm certain they'll rest and rotate themselves, but there's a bit of an inconvenience there compared to City, who won't be far off full strength. Liverpool, we know, will be without Alisson, Jota, Trent. I got it wrong against Forest last weekend. There was no big boys returning, but we know Salah's back in training. Fully expect Szoboszlai, probably Curtis Jones as well, to come back into the squad this time around. So they will look super strong again, even if Alisson's not there. Kelleher's been immense between the sticks. And, last week, I'm just kind of happy to write that off. It was a very below par midfield. They did look a bit tired. They looked disjointed. It was their 4th game in 11 days. I don't think they're too bothered by what happens on Thursday night. All attention is on this game this weekend. And I think it's worth reiterating that this Liverpool side are on course at the moment for a quadruple. They've lost just once in the Premier League, FA Cup and League Cup. It's an astonishing record considering we're into March now. So I don't want to oppose Liverpool. I would be more inclined to back them with a quarter goal start. But the price, I am very interested in that. I did fill it in the sheet and said, Liverpool plus a quarter. But I've also put in there the draw because it's the biggest price of the 3 in the match odds market at 3.95. And I just think the market's underestimating the draw here. It's always an ugly bet to place. No one really likes the draw. But to say that there's a 25% chance that this game ends in the draw, I think is wrong. I think it undervalues the importance of this game. Liverpool have already drawn with City and Arsenal. And I think because we're not yet into the real thrust of the run-in, really, I think both teams would declare with a point apiece after maybe 70 minutes this weekend. They will know, obviously they'll play to win this game, but I think they will know the importance of not losing too, and perhaps that breeds into this match after the hour mark if the game's in the balance. I hope not, and I know obviously it's not ideal for you guys. Well, I think probably you will be cheering the draw. I'm not really sure, but it's just too big. 3.95, I think, for the best 2 teams in the league.
No, that's
best 2 teams of 3 in the league.
Correct.
Yes, I just think it's too big. 3.95. I think the draw happens more often than 25% of the time.
When Arsenal used to be in proper title races as a kid, and I wanted to know what result I wanted with 2 rivals, when my dad pointed out that it's 2 points if they both draw and 3 points if one of the team wins. Since then, Mark, it's always been you take the draw, take your chances with 1 less point on the board between the 2. But interesting stuff there. And the problem with the draw, Mark, is you don't know what you're cheering, obviously. So the overs, you know what you're cheering goals. The unders, you're not cheering goals. Liverpool get a penalty in the first minute. What do you want to happen? Do you know? So there's that balance. But maybe you're compensated with the price. Adrian, take it away on this game.
Yeah, please let them declare. We'll shake on it now. I mean, seriously, I'm all over the draw. If that's what Liverpool and Man City want, I think that'd be a mistake. I think both will go for it. I think Klopp will want to win this game.
Just on that, Adrian, Liverpool are still scarred from that. I think it was a 2-2 in the Etihad where they didn't go for in the last few minutes. Now I don't think they were ever going to really in a position to win it, but City never dropped a point again.
They can really dent Manchester City. They can not put them out of sight, but a win against City makes it, gives them a bit of wriggle room, doesn't it? And you look at their fixtures and you think, how many points are they actually going to drop Liverpool? So I think Liverpool won't shake on the draw. City might, because they'll back themselves to keep winning, keep grinding out the wins. Look, I can see that scenario playing out. I've come at this a fairly splinters angle. I'm not nailing my colours to the mast. I do think that Mark's bang on in terms of Liverpool and the price and the history of the fixture. I don't think any fixture in the top flight Premier League history has seen fewer away wins. Liverpool normally, City very rarely win at Anfield. It's the same the other way around. My inclination is that both teams are likely to score. I mean, Liverpool have scored in 26 of 27 games this season. City have only failed to score twice. So that's 25 of 27 that they've scored in. And when you think about their form, I think that both teams have been a little bit iffy without the ball. I think that Liverpool have been incredibly reliant on Kelleher, who's been just outstanding. So look, if they're as open, to giving chances away as they have been, then City, the way they're playing, the way their star forwards are playing, then they're going to score Manchester City. But I would say something similar around City. I don't think they've been exactly watertight. You can certainly get at them on the counter, and I think Darwin Núñez is a real player in this game. He's in form. He's got that electric movement. He gets chances for fun. If Salah's there as well, they're going to hold a real menace, I think, on the counter. So I see both teams scoring, but I don't see it escalating. I think, in a way, it might be quite cagey early on in the game. So I've paired both teams to score with under 4.5. So, I don't think there'll be 5 goals in the game. And I wouldn't say there'll be that many occasions where these two sides have shared 5 goals. So, we're in essence backing the 1-1 draw, the 2-2 draw, 2-1 either way, or 3-1 either way. And I think that those are among the most likely scorelines here, based on what I've said about them not being particularly watertight at the back. So yeah, that's where I'm coming at. You can cheer on both teams if you're neutral. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Neither team really has been that good against the top 5 this year. As Mark pointed out, City's record. City haven't beaten anyone in the top 5. Lost to Villa and Arsenal. Drew at home to Liverpool and Spurs. Liverpool did beat Villa, but draw in a defeat against Arsenal, draw at City, lost at Spurs, drew with Manchester United. They've not beaten, any of the big dogs yet this season. And I would love it if they didn't, if we didn't have a winner here as well. So yeah, hopefully 1 apiece or 2 apiece. That would do me nicely.
Okay, yeah, that's combining under 4.5 goals with both teams to score on the bet builder. The draw is tempting me in, but for safe play, Liverpool plus a quarter at 10 to 11-ish /191 on the Matchbook betting exchange is the podcast selection. All these bets are available on insights.matchbook.com. Monday Night Football, quite a decent game. Chelsea versus Newcastle. Chelsea just short of even money. Newcastle 11-4 or 3.75. The draw is 4.3. Both teams to score. Another short price 1.4 that will push out a little bit when the market becomes more liquid. Newcastle get a half goal head start, and the total for this game is currently set at 3.5, with the unders the favoured in that market. So, Adrian, it's tough to know where Newcastle are at, because you would expect them at home to Wolves to dominate the ball, to really take the game to Wolves, but they almost sat off them really clever by Eddie Howe and picked them off. But they can't really do that in every single game. However, going into Stamford Bridge, it's the perfect probably setup to take on this Chelsea team.
Yeah, they probably needed to change a little bit, didn't they? Because they just were leaking so many goals, needed to be a little bit more pragmatic. And the thing is, if you are slightly more pragmatic, which let's face it, the basis of their race to the top 4 last season, then and you've got a quick guys in attack, guys that are really suited to counter-attacking football, it makes sense to sort of play that way and just be a little bit more sure when you don't have it. I'm going to lean towards Newcastle here. I can't back Chelsea. No chance. Chelsea have won once this season against top 8 opponents. Massive asterisk there, because it was against, 8-man Spurs or 9-man Spurs. I can't remember how many they had on the pitch, but not very many of their starters saw the final whistle. They've drawn 4 and lost 5 against top 8 opponents so far this season. Barely keep a clean sheet at home. In the derby against Fulham, they won 1-0, but they kept clean sheets against Luton and Sheffield. I don't think they keep a clean sheet here, Chelsea. They're ranked 12th, by the way, in the home table. So yeah, Stamford Bridge, not exactly a fortress. They lost their last home game as well, didn't they, to Wolves? It's been a while since they played at home. Scraped past Fulham and Palace, didn't they, with penalties, narrow wins. So it's easy to oppose Chelsea for me. Newcastle obviously are leaking a lot of goals, or they were, but they do score. And in 2024, they've got 20 goals in 8 games, averaging over 2.5 a game. They've scored in 11 of the last 12 games, Newcastle. And I do think that their sort of counter-attack style and maybe the way they press can trouble Chelsea. Been really bad at playing out from the back. I mean, Disasi is a bit of an accident waiting to happen on the ball at the moment, lacking a lot of confidence. So I think Newcastle are a bad style match for Chelsea this weekend. And look, across their last 6, they got spanked at Arsenal, but Arsenal are a pretty special team at the moment. They've won 2, they've drawn 2, and they've lost 1 in their last 6. So it's lost another one in their last 6. So it's been a mixed bag, but they are scoring goals, and I think if they score 1 or 2 here, they don't get beat. So I'm going to go with Newcastle United plus half a goal. So in essence, we're back in the draw and a Newcastle win, and it comes out at just under even money, doesn't it?
Yeah, tempted me a little bit. All right, we'll see what Mark's case is. Funny comment, Mark, here leading you into Chelsea Newcastle. Owen McIntosh on YouTube wants to know how much would you be down this season backing Chelsea blindly? I guess a lot, given when a team doesn't quite live up to their expected goals, expectations, then you're going to lose a few bob, I'd say.
I have the answer for you. If you had £1 on Chelsea in every Premier League game this season, you would be down £7.89.
Well, that's not good.
Which is
if you're betting over £1, yeah, you're in trouble. Yeah,
I'm just trying to find the most profitable team to follow has been Wolves. It would be £17.41 up, and the least profitable team to follow are Burnley minus £17. So if you have any other requests, let me know.
We'll do. This is request the team here. I know Adrian's back Burnley.
I love the fact that he's just got it. I mean, he is Mr. Spreadsheet, isn't he, Mark O'Haire?
But my favorite thing about that, Mark, is Adrian's back Burnley at least twice this season, and they've definitely lost.
Right. Let's restore order, shall we? I found this game quite tricky. Fans calling for Mourinho last week after the 2-2 draw to Chelsea supporters, where all the old issues come to the fore. Really, create chances, don't always take them, look hopelessly unorganised at times, especially in that second half, and deservedly not winning from a promising position. So it's difficult to see where Chelsea go from here. Obviously, they'll be looking at the FA Cup for a chance of silverware, but 8 points back on Man United. It could turn. The data's been quite good all season, really, but the eye test doesn't fill you with the same confidence, and I just don't really know what we're going to expect from Chelsea. It's always been that way. And you could almost say the same about Newcastle, actually. And I didn't see the 3-0 win over Wolves coming last weekend. Obviously, Wolves' injury issues were biting quite hard there to make some changes. But Eddie Howe made that tweak, which paid off very handsomely. Sat off, dropped off, invited pressure, and then hit them 3 times on the counter-attack. And you wonder whether they didn't employ that same tactic at Stamford Bridge. And if they do, I think they could have some joy. And I did find it's a difficult game to decipher just because of how difficult I've found second-guessing these two teams in recent weeks. But I've opted to a very similar goals approach to what Adrian had at Liverpool, actually. I'm not sure if we've just both stumbled across this individually. I don't remember seeing Adrian's one on the sheet, but I went for both teams to score as a kind of staple for this match. Chelsea have scored in all but 2 Premier League games since September. 15 of their last 19 have seen both teams scoring, and Newcastle have scored at least twice in 7 of their last 8. But their only away clean sheet this season came at Sheffield United, so that almost doesn't count. I like both teams to score, but I partnered it with under 5.5 goals because whilst 175 isn't the biggest of prices, it just gets so many correct scores onside. And for similar reasons of Adrian at Liverpool, I don't really care who wins because I've got the 1-1, the 2-2, the 2-1 either way, the 3-1, the 4-1, or the 3-2 either way. The only way you miss out on profit is if the game ends 0-0 or either team wins 2-0, or obviously we get 6 goals or more in the game. So I'd be surprised if it escalated that high. But I expect Newcastle to be relatively similar to what we saw against Wolves. I think they will score at Stamford Bridge, but don't really back them to keep a clean sheet either. So both teams scoring and under 5.5 goals.
Okay, good way to get both teams to score as a backable price using the match with betting exchanges bet builder. But I'll lock in Newcastle plus half a goal, close enough to even money there. So I think there's a bit of value to be had on that one. Insights.matchbook.com. As I mentioned, there'll be a full recap of all selections here. Adrian, I feel Mark O'Haire is going to steal your thunder in the EFL this week. He's got more selections than you. So I'll let you lead the way and show the people that you are ultimately our EFL experts.
Well, yeah, it's been hard this year, actually, in the EFL. So unpredictable. It's
tough,
been really
tough leagues.
It's been, it's been hit or miss, really. Lots of winners, but a few that have gone awry. My first pick is in the Championship. It's Norwich against Rotherham at the weekend. And this is really price-based. Rotherham are down. I mean, they're they're all over the place. They've lost 8 in a row. It's just not happening for them. They travel to Carrow Road, and basically, you can back Norwich to win this. Norwich are obviously super short, it's unbackable really on their own. But you can back Norwich to win to nil at 1.85. Yet you can back Norwich to win and both teams to score at 3.25. And I just think that is too big a difference to ignore. In those 8 defeats, Rotherham did score 3 times in those 8 games, in those 8 losses. And it was only a couple of weeks ago that they went to Portman Road and really went for it and came out on the wrong end of a 4-3 defeat. They're a bad team at that level, but they are capable of scoring goals. And Norwich aren't exactly watertight. They lost 3-1 at Middlesbrough last night. And they've, a lot of games they've had both teams to score. In fact, actually, both teams to score has landed in 2/3 of Norwich City's matches this season. It's happened in 10 home games as well. So I give Rotherham a shot at scoring, but absolutely fancy Norwich to win the game. They were with 10 men for the bulk of that defeat at Borough. They've generally been in good form. Ashley Barnes is fit and healthy. So is Josh Sargent. They've got a very, very good home record. They've won 7 of their last 8 home games, actually, Norwich. The one that they didn't win was a draw against Southampton. So it's a long, long time since Norwich failed to show up at home. Overwhelming favourites to win. But win to nil at 1.85 or win with both teams to score at 3.25, it just feels like I've got to go for the latter.
Okay. And your second selection from the EFL?
I'm going to back Peterborough at Burton Albion. Posh are on a nice run. They've bounced back from a rocky patch. They've won 3 on the spin. Beat Northampton, who are a good team. They beat them 5-1 in midweek. So they're full of confidence. Got a lot of their better players back fit and available now. They did beat Burton 4-0 at home earlier on this season. I'll get, well, basically I'm going to pair Peterborough to win with over 1.5 goals. So basically any kind of win that isn't 1-0, and that comes in at 2.05. Well, Peterborough games are high scoring generally. They average 3.17. That's the highest in League One. Burton aren't in great form at all. Against the top teams, they're pretty poor. Top 8 opponents, they've lost 7, drawn 1. So, based on that, they're massive underdogs. They've failed to score in 5 of the last 7. So not exactly scoring many goals at the moment. And at home against top 10 opponents this season, Burton Albion, because they are at home here. At home to top 10 opponents, there's been 7 games and they've scored 3 goals. So I can't see them scoring more than 1 goal here. I can see them blanking. And I can absolutely back Peterborough all day long, every week, to score, a couple of goals because they've got firepower and they play a great brand of attacking football. So, for me, Peterborough and over 1.5 is quite a strong bet at 2.05.
Okay, that's Peterborough over 1.5 goals, 2.05. Away to Burton, Norwich and both teams score yes versus Rotherham 9-4 or 3.25. Mark, I've built up your couple of selections. Start with Charlton against Carlisle.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the Nathan Jones revolution at Charlton. He obviously had a terrible time at Southampton, but he's starting to rebuild his reputation down in League One. I was shocked to discover Charlton a few weeks ago had dropped so close towards the drop zone, within sort of touching distance of the bottom 4. The Michael Appleton era was bordering on a disaster, really. I thought that was quite a promising appointment, really. But it just never worked out. He never connected with the club or the supporters. But Jones has managed to climb Charlton back up to 14th. They're unbeaten in 6 games now. And if you look at the calibre of teams they played against in that recent run, they performed very, very well. In midweek, they had an excellent win away at Cheltenham, which has been a tough place to go for some since they've had their revival. They recently won at Derby. They've also held the league leaders Portsmouth and Bolton to draws not so long ago either. So the schedule's been very tough, and Charlton have stepped up for the most part and shown their credentials. Now it lessens this weekend because they're hosting Carlisle, a beleaguered Carlisle, who are rock bottom of League One, heading back to League Two. And Charlton have already won 5 of 8 home games against teams below them in the league table this season. They've scored 20 goals in that 8-game sample, and they've scored twice more in 7 of those 8 as well. So I like Charlton to win an over 1.5 goals at 183. Just rules out the 1-0 home win. Carlisle, 15 points from safety, lost 3-1 at home to Reading last weekend, where they were largely outplayed for the most part. 9 defeats in 10 since New Year's Day, 12 defeats in 17 away from home, conceding 1.76 goals per game. So, a remarkable achievement really from Paul Simpson to get them into League One in the first place. But, it's been pretty miserable for them really since October, and they're heading down. I think Charlton have a good opportunity here to continue their resurgence with a good result.
Okay, Charlton on over 1.5 goals, 183. We'll move on to European bets and both teams to score selection in Serie B here, Mark. So I'm interested here.
Yeah, Pisa against Tanana. Both teams to score as 191. A few reasons for this, really. Serie B is averaging 255 goals per game, but 56% of games in this division have seen both sides score. And if you turn that percentage hit rate into implied odds, you'd be looking at sort of a blanket price of 180. Now, obviously, that's not how you price up football matches, but it gives you a nice guide and highlights really the difference between the league average and the price were available to us this weekend. So 180, we're getting 191. But what's most interesting is obviously that Pisa have scored in 13 of 14 home league games, 11 of which have seen both teams score. Tanana have scored in 11 of 13 away, 10 of which have seen both teams scoring as well. So you've got a combined hit rate of 21 from 27, which is around 77%. Again, makes that BTTS price look big. But also a word on Tanana, who away from home have been hugely entertaining and enjoyable to follow. 3.38 goals per game when playing away, 3.05 expected goals per game. So not a million miles away from their actual goal output, which always fills you with encouragement. My goals model suggests that right price here is closer to 175. So quite happy to be on at 191.
Okay, yeah, 191. And we'll move on to long shots. Before we do, Mark, we've got a request for Manchester United's level stake profit/loss this season.
Okay, right. I'll do the big teams then quickly. Liverpool plus 135, Man City minus 178, Arsenal plus 166, Villa plus 1150, Spurs plus 2.08, Manchester United plus 1.12, surprisingly. West Ham doing very well, plus 1423, Newcastle minus 257, Brighton minus 686. And yeah, then you're getting down to the bottom half dross, which is pretty much all negative. Forest minus 0.27, perhaps a little bit surprising, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of them.
And on level stakes, if we moved our long shot records to level stake on the weekend football podcast, the podcast you're listening to at the moment would be around, if my maths doesn't desert me here, plus £8. But if you include the Champions League, which is roughly about plus 500 to a £20 stake. So if you're still with me, again, my maths, I think it's around plus £33, which is absolutely incredible and would be top of the Premier League with the Premier League already won. Absolutely insane, Adrian Clarke. So take it away with your long shot this week.
Yeah, we've done all right, haven't we, on these long shots? So I've really enjoyed sort of coming up with them as well. Gone for a bit of a random one here. Brighton play Nottingham Forest on the back of their trip to Rome, which is tonight as we record. So, that might knock them a little bit in terms of energy sapped, etc. Yes, they entertain Forest on Sunday. And if you think that might be a draw, which I think is eminently possible, you compare it with both teams to score. So you go for a score draw. It comes out 5.2, which is a very, very nice price. Well, so in effect, we're betting on 1-1 or 2-2, maybe even 3-3, I guess. But what is interesting and what drew me in really is that Brighton have drawn a season high 9 matches. They are the draw kings in the Premier League this season. And 6 of those 9 draws have taken place at the Amex, and 5 of those 6 draws at the Amex have seen this bet pay out. So, a score draw at that stadium has been quite regular so far this season. Both teams to score has landed in 12 or 13 home games as well for Brighton. So there's every chance both teams will score here. The draw is, I think it's doable for Forest. I think Forest are playing pretty well at the moment. They'll go there and play on the counter. And they've got pace and power and a little bit of quality in forward departments. And I think of West Ham going to Brighton and causing them problems on the counter with their pace and power. And I think that Forest can do something similar. They're better on the road this season than they were last. That's undeniable. They've scored in 9 of 13 away games this season. They've scored in their last 5 on the road as well. And in the game at the City Ground between these two, it finished 3-2, you know, quite a chaotic open game. So, yeah, all things said and done, Brighton are the better team, but not playing brilliantly at the moment. They've got Europe as well. Forest playing okay. I think a draw is achievable for them, and both teams to score feels not a shoo-in, but it feels pretty likely.
Okay, 5.2 draw and both teams to score. Mark, take it away with your pick against Wrexham, who good win at the weekend. You look at the table; the season's going pretty well, but you've a couple of reasons why you want to take them on.
Yeah, they're obviously installed at the start of the season as short-priced favourites to win League Two. They are a very big budget club in League Two. We know all about their story, and I guess at this point in time, they're only 3 points off the top. So, going along nicely. I've got them ranked 4th on expected points, so there or thereabouts, really. But if you look more recently, the last 12 games, they've dropped off a little bit in terms of their performance levels. I've got them 8th on expected points over the last 12 games. But quite surprisingly, 16 other League Two sides have generated a higher expected goals output than Wrexham over that 12-game sample. When you consider the kind of firepower they have at their disposal, that's fairly surprising to me, at least. And they are also displaying very large Jekyll and Hyde features, if you like, between their respective home and away fixtures this season. So Wrexham comfortably top the charts for most home wins, most home goals, most home points. They are the strongest home team in League Two by a distance. However, when they play away from home, they tend to toil. They've won just 5 times in 17 away games. And this really hit me for 6, actually. No side in League Two has scored fewer away goals than Wrexham, just 16 away goals. So seeing them at odds-on quotes away at Morecambe this weekend, I just have to oppose them. Because Morecambe aren't, no hopers. Morecambe last week turned over Crewe away from home, high-flying Crewe, a fantastic result. They followed up midweek with a really good win against Crawley, who are in the same sort of chase as them for playoff positions. They're only outside the top 7 now on goal difference. They've already held Mansfield and Stockport at home this season, the top 2 in the division. So absolutely no reason why they can't do something similar against Wrexham, who've tasted victory just once in 9 trips to the top half this season. And if you look at their most recent away days, they've not been impressive at all. So since Boxing Day, they've been beaten at Walsall, Newport, Salford and Gillingham. They drew at MK Dons and Forest Green, and their only victory away since Boxing Day came at rock bottom Sutton. If you look at those 7 away days, they're averaging just 1.02 non-penalty expected goals. And when you consider Morecambe are giving up just 0.94 goals per game at home this season, I think there's an opportunity here to get Morecambe onside in various different ways. But for the long shot, I'll back Morecambe to win and under 3.5 goals. So 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 or 2-1 at 5.5.
Okay, seems big price there. If you want to take on Wrexham's away form, podcast best bets, Adrian, you're going to the Premier League.
Yeah, I wanted to pick out another Premier League game, and I think it feels like it's easy to oppose Burnley at the moment, particularly away from home. They're just a soft touch, simple as that. I think that you can really get after Burnley. Some of their performances are fine. They're nice in possession, but when you stick it to them at the other end of the pitch, they do crack. West Ham are the team that host them this weekend. I think it's a bad matchup for Burnley. James Trafford is a prospect, but he's not. He's a massive weak link on corners, set pieces, any kind of crosses that get put in the box. He's not dominant at all, and every opponent I've noticed is really putting him under pressure, and I feel like he's losing a little bit of confidence. I just know that David Moyes and West Ham will target him this weekend. Look, they've conceded more than 1 goal in 8 of 11 matches away to the top 15. So I'm going all the way down to the top 15 here. They've conceded more than once in 8 of 11. In those games, they've claimed 4 points. 4 points from those 11 away games. Lost 9. 1 win, 1 draw, lost 9. So this is a match that probably they would expect to get beat in. West Ham obviously weren't brilliant until recently, but they've been perked up. They smashed Brentford 4-2, went to Goodison 1-3-1. Did concede a lot of shots in that game, but they got the win. And I just think that when Kudus, Paquetá and Bowen are all fit, that they're a dangerous team. And And I looked at some of the numbers. I was curious to know. Obviously, we know about West Ham's win ratio when Paquetá plays. It's great. I think they've won without him. Look, when he starts at home this season, they've scored at least twice in 10 of 13 home games in all competitions. And if they score twice here, they beat Burnley. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to go with West Ham to win and over 1.5 goals. And that comes out at 2.02. West Ham are very, very short price favourites here for a reason. And really, we're just betting any kind of win apart from the 1-0.
Okay, yeah, West Ham over 1.5 goals, 2-0-2 versus Burnley. The final selection is Premier League, Mark. It is one of your two selections on Matchbook Insights. So I was surprised initially seeing this bet, like the case for it, particularly the move to a 3 at the back.
Yeah, I think Palace is still being priced up as the pragmatist side under Roy Hodgson. Really, we've not had enough evidence of the Oliver Glasner transition to move the needle massively in terms of what prices we're getting available to us. But that allows us opportunity too. And as you say, Palace have evolved into a 3 at the back, wing back system approach, which we didn't see the best of last week at Tottenham because they only had 21% of the ball. They clearly went there with a game plan to frustrate Spurs, play on the break. Their only shot on target was Eze's outstanding free kick, and then they concede 3 goals in 11 minutes, largely from individual errors, really, which hurt them. But I think we'll see a much different Palace, a very similar Palace side to the side which took Burnley apart in the latter stages of the Selhurst Park match more recently. It was a fairly evenish game for an hour or so, but the red card tilted in their favour. But even still, I just think Glasner is much more fluent, forward-thinking, and having Eze available does make a big difference too. So I think they'll be stronger for the last couple of weeks, obviously on the training paddock with Glasner. And remember, this is a Palace team who, despite being under Roy Hodgson's watch for the most part of this sample, in their last 18 Premier League games, have scored in 16 of those. And you expect them to score again against the Luton side, who still haven't kept a clean sheet away from Kenilworth Road. But on the flip side, Luton, they're not going down without a fight, really. We've seen that many times, almost every game, really. They're really battling hard. They're throwing everything at opposition sides, and they have a forward threat. Even without Adebayo, I think Carlton Morris is really relishing winning his place back in attack, being a real nuisance in forward areas. They've got pace, they've got physicality. Barkley's been fantastic in midfield as well. So I like them in various different ways, and they've scored in 22 of 26 Premier League games since promotion, which is outstanding, really. 10 of 13 games away from home they've scored in. And if you look at the BTTS numbers, it's landed in 62% of Palace home games, 75% of Luton away games, and the Premier League is operating at a 61% hit rate for both teams scoring this season. Yet we're getting 183 on both teams to score here. I expect Luton to be aggressive, play on the front foot. I think Palace under Glasner will open up and will be offensively minded too. So I think all the ingredients are there. And, contrary to probably popular belief, but most of the basement battles this season in the Premier League have been quite goal heavy. Teams are having a go. They're realising the importance of getting those 3 points rather than playing for one. And I think that will be the case this weekend between these two teams too. So I think goals are underrated, but I'll take both teams to score at 183.
183, both teams to score. We're done. My thanks to Mark and Adrian. Really fun weekend football taking place, particularly that Super Sunday. So make sure you enjoy the football. Let's hope betting enhances that enjoyment, but always do so responsibly. We'll be back Monday recording our Champions League podcast with Mark, Adrian, and Miguel. Some decent ties up for grabs. Until then, enjoy the weekend's football. Bye-bye.